الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. First and foremost, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings that He has given us. We send salutations upon the best of creation, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Then we thank the organizers of this event, and I also thank you as the community for giving me some time, allowing me to share some thoughts and some of the points that I had. I don't know much French, so excuse me and please forgive me. Hopefully, the only French that I know is bonjour and French fries. That's the only thing that I know. Maybe by the next time I come, inshallah, I'll probably learn a few more sentences, inshallah. Or maybe I'll stay in Montreal for a few weeks, then you can teach me, inshallah. So, Jazakumullah khairan, you've been very, very hospitable. As I came in, everyone said salam and everything. I'm from New York. So, if anyone's been to New York, they know that New York City, the city life is way different than living in any other place in the world. You go to any big cities such as New York City, you go to Tokyo, you go to, for example, maybe Karachi, or you go to Dhaka, big cities, everyone has this attitude that I need to just stay with my business and move along my day. To the extent that even in New York City, in some of the subways, like this is a stereotype, but it's true. If someone is getting beat up in the subway, people will just walk by. They'll just ignore it, completely ignore it. If someone just completely on the floor, they'll just ignore it. The reason I'm mentioning this is because I've been in Toronto for I've been in Canada for 1 day now, and there's a stereotype about Canadians. The stereotype is that Canadians are very, very kind, and they're very nice. I've seen that to be true. Alhamdulillah, I've seen it to be very, very true. Everyone is more welcoming, or maybe I'm just saying that because I'm from New York. I'm used to that, and everyone's just has an attitude in New York. So, because this is all, you can think of America and Canada as, you can say that the challenges that Muslims face in America and the challenges that Muslims face in Canada are pretty much the same, right? The only challenge that I have extra is I don't speak French. That's the only challenge that I have that is a little bit different. I don't speak French, but other than that, the challenges are pretty much the same in America and in Canada. So the perspective I'm going to be speaking about is the perspective for America and Canada both. In the 1900s, in the early 1900s, we see that Muslims started to migrate from different parts of the world to, for example, America, to Canada, to Britain, to the UK, to Sri Lanka, to South Africa. And over the course of the 19th century, we've seen that many, many Muslims migrated from these different areas to these Western, quote-unquote, Western countries. To these quote-unquote Western countries. And over the course of the century, the Muslim population grew and they grew and they grew. The population that you have right now in Montreal, it didn't come about in 10 years. It didn't even come about in 20, 30 years. This has been probably in the making from the early 1900s. So over the course of an entire century, the Muslim population grew and it grew and it grew to the extent where now in Salat al-Isha you have the whole masjid filled. MashaAllah. Say MashaAllah. Say Alhamdulillah. I've traveled in the United States to different parts. And I'm sure this also applies to Canada. I've been to Masjid where they were in more countryside and rural areas. They had a Muslim population, but the Muslims would only come for 1 or 2 prayers in the entire week. I stayed in the masjid for 3 days. I prayed most of the salahs on my own. I led the salah, I prayed the salah, I was the imam and the muqtadi all in one. So you having this many individuals for Salat al-Isha is a blessing. It's an extremely great blessing. So Muslims started to migrate to different parts. We have Muslims, obviously there's a big Muslim population in Montreal, Toronto, amongst the cities in Canada. We have Vancouver, Edmonton. I lived in Canada for 2 years actually. I think it was 2012 to 2014. I lived in Chatham, Ontario. I was studying in the Islamic school over there, the Darul Uloom over there. And I mentioned this in the other program as well, one of the things that I really I remember so clearly is that you guys in Canada have milk in bags. We have milk in gallons over there in America. You guys have milk in bags. It was difficult for me, man. It was very difficult. I spilled it so many times. So that's what I remember about my Canada life. I stayed here for 2 years. So in these different cities in Canada, you have a large Muslim population. You have many masajid. You have many schools. I'm going to give you 2 examples from other than Canada and America, and then I'm going to bring it back. Remember, as Muslims start to migrate to different countries. So we have Muslims that migrated to the UK and Sri Lanka, for example. And South Africa. Let's take these 3 countries as one example. Over the course of 1 century, they worked on their Islamic education to such an extent that the Islamic schools in these countries are now outperforming the public schools. Meaning the students in Islamic schools are rated much higher in terms of education than the public school system. This is true for the UK, for Sri Lanka, and South Africa. Why? Because they worked on that model. People have sent their students, people have sent their kids to the Islamic school. The scholars in the school and the people that are running the schools, they worked and they worked and they worked to this extent, and this is the result that they got, that now they're outperforming the public schools in their secular education, and along with that, the students are also receiving their Islamic education. So you hit 2 birds with 1 stone, maybe even 3 birds, where they also get the environment of being around Muslims all day. That's one example. The other example is the example of South America. Brazil, Chile, Guatemala, Venezuela, all of these different countries over there. In these countries, Muslims also started to migrate here in the same time, same era, in the early 1900s. But the Muslims that came to these countries, they had the intention that, we need to make something for our children. They had the intention, but they never put it into action. So it always remained an intention. I need to make something for my children. We need to make something for the community. 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 30, 50 years passed. And slowly people started to leave Islam because the Islamic education was not there. So now if you go to South America, you will meet individuals who have an Islamic name, because Islamic name gets passed down from generation to generation, but they know nothing about Islam. Their name is Umar. But they don't even know La ilaha illallah. You ask them, who named you Umar? My grandmother named me Umar. Oh, so you know anything about Islam? He's like, what's that? Oh, it means the Quran, it's a book, and prayer. Oh, he's like, I remember my grandma, she used to do something on the prayer mat. She used to go up and down and she used to read a book. My parents really never taught me. I never went to school. I never learned any of this. So this is the second example. You have on one hand the good side, and this is the bad side. Where the Muslims, they went to an area, they migrated to an area, and they stayed in that area, but they never developed the Islamic education. Why is Islamic education so necessary and so important? I'm going to give you some statistics which are going to blow your mind. Pew Research, which is one of the leading organizations for surveys and research in the entire world, they did a research in 2017 in America, but you can apply it to Canada as well. It's similar. I told you everything. The challenges are the same, and in terms of people coming into Islam and leaving Islam, it's probably almost the same. The research revealed that just as many people enter Islam, as many people revert to Islam, that's as many people that leave Islam as well. In people that are born as Muslims in these countries, in America. And obviously we can apply that to Canada as well. Born as a Muslim, raised as a Muslim, but they leave Islam. What is the percentage? Almost 24% of Muslims that are American born leave Islam. How come? I did some little bit of digging on the reasons why people leave Islam. They say because there was no support, or no one was able to answer their questions, and all of these different reasons, so many different reasons. But the one reason I was able to basically common denominator amongst all of them, the one common denominator was that when they were young, they didn't have a basic Islamic education. At a young age, they never learned about Islam. So as they went through the public school system, as they went through college, as they went through high school and university, they were obviously, you stay around people that are not Muslim. That's an obvious thing, right? You're not going to go, there's no full university, Islamic university, that you're surrounded by Muslims at all times. Our children go to universities and colleges and high schools. If they're going to the public school system, they're surrounded by people that are not Muslim. Over time, if you don't balance that with Islamic education, over time, it influences the individual. No matter how religious the household is, no matter what you try to give them at home, no matter how many weekend school programs you try to put them in, their friends will have an effect on them and influence on them. Just as our friends have an influence on us. Do our friends have an influence on us or not? Yes or no question. Very simple. Right? It's very simple. There's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which he says, Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi. That a person is on the religion of their friends. The way that a person's closest friends are going to be, eventually you will also be that type of person. You will take things from them. The reason I'm mentioning this is that, remember, I'm trying to put this into perspective for your children. If your children attend the public school system, and I'm assuming most children do attend the public school system, if your children do attend the public school system, I want you to understand a few things. The first thing I want you to understand that the friends and the people that they're around with in school has an effect on them. And those individuals, obviously, most of them are not Muslim. A lot of them are not Muslim. They don't have Tawheed, they don't have La ilaha illallah, they don't have the Quran, they don't have the same values as we do. And as the child grows up, they go through middle school and then high school. That becomes a very, very difficult time. High school is one of the worst times when it comes to public schools. You have dating, you have so many different things, a plethora of things that are completely wrong, that are against Islam. But remember, your child is there. Your child is there. They're being influenced by these other individuals. When they come home in front of you, they're going to be a good Muslim. In the masjid, you're going to bring them, they're going to be a good Muslim. And we ask Allah to give them, to make them good Muslims. But remember, internally, that's affecting them. Correct or not? Internally, that's affecting them. You're influenced by the people that you keep around you. And then they go into college and university, and now the other things are the other isms. You have atheism, agnosticism. I don't know if there's a God. Well, maybe there's something out there. I don't know what it is. There's a higher being. Then you have all the other isms, liberalism, so many isms. So many isms that, I mean, then you have all the letter people. You have the people with different letters. By the way, is Canada a conservative or a liberal country? Liberal, oh. So you guys have it more difficult. Much more difficult. So now, within Canada, I'm sure that within the public school systems, they're also pushing the LGBTQ agenda. Correct? They're also pushing that. In primary schools, I know in New York, in Long Island, that's where I'm from, Long Island so New York is a Democrat, which means they're liberal. But Long Island, that part of New York, is very, very Republican. It's all white people, and they're all Trump supporters. Very Republican. In Long Island, you have schools that within primary school, elementary school, kids as young as 5 or 6 years old, they're teaching them that it's okay for a family to have 2 dads. I want you to understand what that means. Families come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. They're teaching that to young kids. And it's not just against, like, it's not an attack on Muslims. People, even conservatives, Republicans, they don't like that. Most of the world is against this. But it's just been hyped up so much in the media and with the presidents and people in power that it seems like everyone is for it, whereas majority are against it. Even people that are not Muslim, they're against these ideas, most of them. But I want you to understand that in the public school system, this is what your child is facing. You understand the challenges that your child is going through. So, by forcing them to do something at home, you're not really, long term, you're not really doing anything. You're not really affecting the child. In the short term, you're getting what you want out of them. Pray your salah. Pray your salah, get up. In the short term, they're going to listen to you. They have to. They're under your roof. You're supporting them. But in the long term, what are we doing to support them? What kind of education are we giving them? Pray salah, but why? Why should I pray salah? A child, 14-year-old child, 13-year-old child, why should I pray salah? We don't have those answers. As parents, most parents don't have those answers. And that's okay. If you don't have an answer to that, it's okay. Remember, you were brought up in a different era. You were brought up in maybe a different country. So the environment surrounding your upbringing was completely different. When you grew up, you were surrounded probably almost 100% by Muslims. Your school had all Muslims inside of it. I'm talking about if you're back home, whether you're from Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, most of the people in your community were Muslim, if not all of them, right? But your children, they don't have that same environment and same upbringing as you. They have challenges. Where at home, they're a Muslim, their identity is a Muslim because they have to in front of you. In school, they have a little bit of a different identity. Why? Because they want to also fit in with their friends. In the masjid, they're a little bit different. With their friends outside of school, they're a little bit different. What I'm trying to tell you is we need to be a little bit more involved in our children's upbringing, number one. Number two, understand that the way that we were brought up and the way that we were raised is different than their being raised. Is different than their environment. We had all Muslims surrounding us. They have probably almost all non-Muslims surrounding them. Only a few Muslims. How do we balance all of these things? How do we make it that our children and their children remain Muslim? How do we instill that Islamic identity in them? What I mean by Islamic identity is, I'm going to give you an example. Mus'ab bin Umayr radiyallahu anhu. He was a companion. Before he accepted Islam, he was filthy rich, extremely wealthy. He was born into riches. He was born into kingdomship and a royal family. You can think of it as a royal family. Anything he thought of, he got. He was so wealthy that he would never wear clothes twice. If he wore this today, never wear it again. Oh, jazakallah. If he wore this today, he would never wear it again. So rich, man. These are the things that the youth dream of. He put out perfume. His perfume was so expensive it would be imported. When he would wear perfume, people would know Mus'ab bin Umayr walk by because of how strong it was. Look at the Islamic identity that this person had. He accepts Islam and his family says, if you accept Islam, you're kicked out of our house. Don't you dare come back into our house. He accepts Islam and he says, do whatever you want to me. And his family, his mother kicked him out of the house. So from riches to rags, not the other way, not rags to riches, from riches to rags. He could have done so many different things. He could have been like, let me make a business and then come back in a few years, then I'll accept Islam, and I'll have money to support myself. He didn't do any of that. This is the time to change. This is the time I need to accept Islam. He accepts it, his family kicks him out. And he remained in poverty till his death. He was sent to Medina as the ambassador of Islam to Medina before the Hijrah. So Mus'ab bin Umayr went to Medina and he propagated Islam, and that's why so many people in Medina accepted Islam before the Hijrah, because of Mus'ab bin Umayr, because of his sacrifice. Look at these, I'm telling you from an Islamic identity perspective, he was willing to give everything for Islam. This is just one of so many different examples. Bilal radiyallahu an, most famous example we have, Bilal radiyallahu an. No matter what his master and what the kuffar did to him, the mushrikeen, I will not renounce Islam. Ahadun, ahadun, ahadun. Allah, Allah, Allah. Do whatever you want to me, I will not give up Allah. What I'm trying to say to you is we need to instill Islamic identity within the children. How do we do that? I gave you all the problems. Now I'm going to give you the solution. You guys ready for it? Your water also tastes, mashallah, very good. Are you guys ready for the solution? I give you all the problems. A lot of times speakers give you all the problems and then they leave this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. What's the solution to all of these different things? We have an identity crisis amongst Muslims. The same Pew research that I cited earlier, they also did a research for younger kids, aged 5 to 9. And it revealed that almost half of Muslim children in the USA, or in, you can say, North America, they don't want to tell their friends that they're Muslim. They don't want to tell their friends. Why? Because they're scared. They don't know what's going to happen. What are my friends in public school going to think of me? How do we instill that Islamic identity within them? The first thing, the first step in establishing Islamic identity is to give them the environment. You have to give your children the environment. Without the environment at home and within the masjid, you're going to fail. I'm going to be very straightforward with you. If you don't have an Islamic environment at home, meaning you tell your children to pray but you don't pray yourself, you tell your daughters to wear the hijab and wear niqab but you don't do it yourself as a mother, you ask your children to be nice to others and be kind to others but you don't do it yourself, meaning you're not telling your children practically what to be and what to do. So the first step in solving this entire problem is establishing the proper environment at home. What you want your children to be that person. If you want your children to always pray, then when the salah time comes in, start getting ready for salah. That's it. Start getting ready for salah. Within a few months or within a few years, automatically, if it's a child that's very smart, within a few weeks maybe, automatically they'll see you. They'll see you and they'll pick up on these things. But if you tell them to pray their salah right when the time comes in, but you're waiting until the last minute to get up and go and pray salah, and you're busy with so many different things, look, I know life is busy, everyone is busy, no one is free. Even the companions were busy. You think the companions were just sitting around, just watching Netflix all day? No, they were busy with their own things. The companions were doing business. They were big businessmen, man. Some of the greatest businessmen to ever live. Abdurrahman bin Auf started from zero when he migrated to Medina, started from zero. Within a few years, he was one of the most wealthiest people in Medina. To the extent where his caravan, meaning you can think of it like a train, a train with all the different things on it. You can think of it with of a train from Medina all the way to Egypt. Abdurrahman bin Auf, and he started with a few things. So everyone is busy. I know you're busy, I'm busy, or I try to keep myself busy. Everyone is busy. Within that busy time, we have to find time to make time for our children and to show them, exemplify what we want from them. So the first step is what? The first step is what? I don't want to just keep speaking. I don't want to keep speaking to the walls. I want you to, this is not the Arabic khutbah in Jum'ah. You can reply to me. Your salah will not be broken. You can reply to me. So the first step in establishing or making sure that not our children, but our great-grandchildren remain Muslim, what's the first step in doing that? Yes. Establishing the identity within the home. The second step is you have to give them the education of Islam. What do I mean by education? I'm going to give you an example and I want you to answer this yourself. So I'm going to ask you a question first. Within my ethnicity, I'm from Pakistan. So Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, pretty much similar in terms of the mindset when it comes to immigrants coming to the US and Canada. So a lot of the parents, a lot of the individuals who migrated to the US and Canada, they're from these backgrounds, from these ethnicities, they want their children to become doctors, want their children to either become doctors, and if they fail at that, then engineers. Then if not that, then maybe a lawyer. If you're a lawyer, then you're probably you didn't make it to law school. You didn't make it to med school. You're pretty much a failure in your parents' eyes. But anyways, and if you're a nurse, then you're the doctor who could have been. Okay, so this is within our ethnicity. In the Arab population, what is the mainstream thing? This is a very stereotypical question, but I'm asking you, what do you usually want the children to become? Same thing? Same thing? Doctors, engineers, lawyers, okay. Same thing. Khair, alhamdulillah, that's great. That's great. Our children and Muslims need to be within all of these different areas. They need to be within engineering. They need to be within law. They need to be within the medical field. Muslims need to be in every field. Right? If you want your child to become a doctor, alhamdulillah, that's great. Pursue that. But remember, you will always get what you pursue. So if you want them to become a doctor, they will become a doctor. But why does that have to come at the cost of them only becoming a doctor and not a good Muslim? Why can't it be both? You understand what I'm trying to say, right? Why can't they be a good Muslim and have knowledge of Islam while simultaneously endeavoring to become a doctor? Why can't they do both? Why can't they become an engineer, a world-class engineer that also has the knowledge of Islam? So my question to you is, you want your child to become a doctor, engineer, lawyer. If you're an art major, I feel bad for you. You're a complete failure in your whole family's eyes. But I'm completely joking. If someone is an art major, this is not against you, but I'm just saying you're against the stereotype. My question to you is, you want your children to become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or whatever field you want them to pursue. Do you give them 2 hours in a week and say, okay, sit right here in front of a laptop and someone from a different country is going to teach you how to become a doctor? Do you do that? Yes, or it's a yes or no question. Do you do that? Would you do that? If you want your child to become specialized in a field, or you want your child to learn something, would you do that? Would you do that? No. Would you put your child in front of a computer for only 2 hours in a week or 1 hour in a week with a teacher from a different country that doesn't even speak the same language as you or the child? Do you think that's going to actually make them a doctor? No, right? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Do you understand the example I'm trying to give? So why should we do that about Islam? Do you think they're actually going to learn that much about Islam? No. This is what I do on a daily basis. I actually go around. We actually supervise. He said we have one madrasa. I just want to make a small correction. I don't have a school on my own. I actually, with an organization, we supervise almost 100 institutions. And this is what we do. We literally go to those institutions and we supervise them. We assist the students. Okay, I want you to do this. I want you to read this. You've been in this school for 10 years. You've been in weekend school for 10 years. Show me what you've learned. Not to my surprise, you can guess the results of individuals who don't go through a proper Islamic course. Someone just learns 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week. They don't know. They can't even recite Surah Fatiha correctly. They cannot recite Surah Al-Fatiha. They don't even know how to make wudu properly. The second step is you have to understand that the education is extremely important. The actual education. Otherwise, we don't want the same situation of South America to happen to our city, to happen to the Muslims in our town. We don't want that. We don't want our grandchildren to leave Islam. We want our great-grandchildren to remain Muslim and to actually be the flag bearers of Islam, to represent Islam in this country. We want our children to do that, and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. The only way to do that is by giving them, number one, the environment within the home, and number two, the Islamic education that they actually need. This is what they deserve. They don't need it, they deserve it. It is our duty as Muslim parents. We are all responsible If you are a father or a mother, you are responsible for your children. I am responsible for my children. You are responsible for your children. If you do not raise your children, then guess who will? Your friends. Their friends will. The public school system will. Their teachers in the public school will. Why? Because they spend how many hours in public school? How many hours? About, what's the school timing over here, by the way? 7 hours? What time do they go in the morning? 5 o'clock? Oh, 9 o'clock, right? Okay, 8, 9 o'clock. I thought I heard 5 o'clock. Wow, man. They can't put the 100 on the way. So, 8, 9 o'clock. So you have kids going, and then they come back around 2, 3, 4 o'clock, right? Okay. Yeah, minimum 6 hours and up to 8 or 9 hours minimum. And they're home for how long? When you're home and they're home, how long is that? How much time do you get? Maybe 2 hours. Right? Everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about. And you know, you live in this situation. I know. I have children myself. I look young. I have 3 children, by the way. I'm 29 years old. My son is almost 10 years old. I got married very young. So whoever needs to get married, this is your motivation. Please, get married. The only thing stopping you back is Fatima's Baba. That's it. Fatima's Baba, whoever you are, please, man, let the poor kid get married to your daughter. Anyways, so they only see you and you only see them for a few hours in a day. And even within that time, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on YouTube, TikTok Shorts. So let me tell you something mad weird. Really, oh, sorry, the New York accent came out. Let me tell you something really, really weird. When I was young, I used to play video games. Kids nowadays, they want to watch others play video games. What even is that? What even is that? Like you're watching a YouTuber play Fortnite and Minecraft. That makes no sense. Like you can be doing that yourself. Anyways, so now when they're home and you're probably busy watching TV. They're busy with their own phones and iPads. By the way, that's a big issue. Like, giving them unrestricted access is a big issue. Personally, I don't give any of my children any screen time between Monday and Friday. 5 days a week, don't even think about it, don't even ask me. On Saturday and Sunday, it's supervised in front of us and for only 1 or 2 hours in the day. Now, if you try to do that with your teenage child, all of a sudden after today, you go home and you put all these parental controls on them, it's going to backfire. If you have younger children, it might be easier. So the way that you completely root this out is you don't give it to them from the beginning. So now you're with your child for only a few hours in a day, but they're at school for 8 hours in a day. And even when they're home, you're busy with your own things and they're busy with their own things. That's not really going to help them develop their Islam, develop their identity. So now I told you the problem, I told you a little bit of the solution. Now I'm going to give you practical advice. If you have an Islamic school in your area, put your children within that Islamic school, if you can. If you can afford it, or with financial aid, or whatever it is, if you can put your children within the Islamic school, put them. Even if the education is a little bit less and a little bit subpar compared to the public school system. It's better that your child receives a little bit less of an education but remains a firm Muslim than to receive the best education, Ivy League education, but they're no longer a Muslim. I know people, I was an imam for 5 years. I know individuals, they were in the first saf every single day for Salat al-Fajr. And most of the other salahs, first saf, first people in the masjid. And they live very close to the masjid. But their children only step foot inside the masjid on Salat al-Eid. I'm giving you real examples. Real examples. We don't want that. Right now I have mostly adults in front of me. And I know most of the brothers and sisters, they have children. We need to get our children more involved and more within the Islamic environment and within the masjid. So practical advice number 1 is if you have an Islamic school in your area, put your children within that school. It's better that they receive a little bit less of an education, a little bit subpar, and if they're intelligent, they'll make up for it anyway. They'll make up more. If you cannot do that, then okay, send them to public school, but remember that they also need that balance with it. And the only way to balance that is to give them an after-school program. The after-school program, I think your masjid is starting it. It's starting from January. You can see Brother Tajammal for more information. I don't get a commission, by the way. I don't get a commission, but I'm just telling you, if you cannot send your children to a full-time Islamic school, then okay, send them to the public school, but you have to send them to the after-school program. That is their only connection to Islamic knowledge in reality. The weekend school, we know it's not enough, and I gave you the example for that. If you understand that example, please, for not yourself and for not your children, for your great-grandchildren, do it for them. Remember, it takes sacrifice and it takes effort to keep Muslims within these countries as Muslims. You have to give a little bit of sacrifice. The pick up and drop off, it's okay, do it. Or arrange it with someone else. I know pick up and drop off is one of the biggest issues. Arrange it with someone else, do it yourself. One time you come and then your wife drop, or the other way, whatever you guys want to do. But do it. You have to give a little bit of sacrifice. To see a result, you have to do that a little bit. So that's my advice to you and to myself. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for giving me so much time. I apologize if I went over. Jazakumullah khairan. If I said anything wrong, it is from myself, it is from shaitan. If I said anything right, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khairi khalqihi Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Jazakumullah khairan.